Digitizing German American Newspapers. Carrie Tuck Ebling, School of Information Studies, Louisiana State University, for the class Understanding Research. Ludwig Roschkob was a German immigrant who came to the United States before 1849 and settled in Belleville, Illinois, a home to a large community of other German immigrants. George Roschkob, one of his 6 children, and his brothers would go on to become business owners. George had 5 children of his own. George's son Arthur opened one of the first candy shops in the country. George Roschkob was one of his 11 children and another influential business owner in the Belleville community. One of George's 5 children was Sandra Roschkob. Pictured here is all but one of her grandchildren as of 2008. I'm sharing these direct family lines so it is easy to see how one German immigrant can easily have over 1,600 descendants in just over 150 years. Half of that number alone accounts for the most recent generation. If only 10% of these families members wanted to research their German American heritage, things become complicated and frustrating as little to no German American newspapers are digitalized. Research by Rebecca Tippett indicates that between 1840 and 1919, 32.5 million immigrants entered the United States. Her research goes on to explain that between 1840 and 1859, immigration from Germany and Ireland accounted for more than 70% of all immigration to the United States. And while a good portion of these immigrants spoke English as their native language, many did not. Non-English American newspapers created a way for immigrants, especially first-generation immigrants, to remain in touch with their home culture through the bonds of language and shared news of their country's origin. The same components as their American counterparts were found in these newspapers, including news stories, obituaries, marriage announcements, community engagements, and advertising like the one seen here. These documents provide crucial research information for historians, genealogists, and so forth. They are no less important than their English counterparts. However, only a fraction of non-English newspapers are digitalized. Digitalized newspapers are of significant importance to studies and researchers alike. The ease of access saves researchers time and money. However, when it comes to digitization, gaps exist, especially for foreign language newspapers. Preference appears to be given to new English newspapers over those of another language. Availability of German American newspapers in digital archives for researchers lacking. This research project aims to help researchers understand why this is happening. Information gathered will be generally with the qualitative method. However, some questions will collect quantitative information, allowing for mixed methods research. The Association of College and Research Libraries has a project which includes an index to German language newspaper access in North America. With the help of this database, a sample can be selected. Although, if the numbers are low enough, all repositories could be contacted. The sample would consist of facilities with and without digitalized German American newspapers. The dependent variable will be the presence of non-English American newspapers, while the independent variable will be the current state of those files, digitalized or not. The questionnaire with basic identifying information will be provided. This information will include location, uses of grants, any archives digitalized, and so forth. These questions will further categorize the various facilities and their capabilities. Additional questions will delve deeper into the process of each institution. These will include what are the determining factors when digitizing archives and what other contributing factors might affect us. Due to the narrow scope of this research and the lack of previous research, a second set of data will be collected from researchers. This quantitative survey's main purpose is to determine how easily researchers can access German American newspapers. Both sets of data could be gathered using Google Forms or SurveyMonkey. Some information gathered will allow facilities or researchers to be broken down into smaller groups, for example, by the use of grants or use of volunteers, while other information will be specific to each location. With all information gathered in one place, deductions can be made on why there is a lack of digitization when it comes to these files. Approximately 9 months are needed for this research project. This allows 2 months for identifying the select population for research, as well as development, editing, and finalization of the surveys. 3 months are allowed for distribution and collection of the surveys, as well as any additional research that needs to be completed. After which, 2 months will be given for data analysis and additional research. And finally, 2 months for writing, editing, and finalization of the report. This is a generous timeline and, with the exception of the 3 months allowed for distribution and collection, could be shortened to as little as 6 months. Budget for this project will be minimal. Fees might be included for platform providers used for the survey. The timeline for this project is set so that time invested is evenly distributed as not to distract with studies and family life in general. So there is no budget for the research and writing. There's nothing more frustrating than seeing a colleague that has all the information he needs at his fingertips, but you don't. It can be even more upsetting if you don't understand why there is such a difference. This research project aims to help others understand the process and why or why not the documents they so desperately need are not digitized while others are. In turn, it is expected that this information will open the doors of communication between institutions so that they can see what might need to be done differently or give researchers the initiative to see how they can help.